I got to, we're still doing the, what is it, cottage and lakefront living show. And one of the best things when I was doing the employee retention tax credit, I went to a number of industry um, trade shows and what have you. And I'll tell you what, it's uh, it's really I missed it. You know what I mean? It was like here I got to be this old, and it's pretty old, um, and not having spent hardly any time at those things. And it's not so much for the people who come cruising through, not the visitors. It's the people who were there, the manufacturers reps and the people who run their own businesses and that kind of thing. And it's the same way here at the lakefront living show. It's the people come through who have cottages and whatnot. Yeah, love talking to them. Very interesting. All the rest, but it's fascinating to me anyway. The folks who are there exhibiting. So you've got the guy who's selling the pots and pans, and the other guy who's selling the knives, and somebody's selling um, flagpoles. You got the flagpole guy. You got all the Amish people who are selling everything from docks to sheds and all that kind of thing. And their kids are there, and they're very engaging and very, just a lot of fun to talk to them, and just really that's the part of the show I like the best. Talking to those folks, um, and of course everyone who stops by the booth and says hi. We love that as well. Um, but if you have a chance, I'm speaking at 2 o'clock. I'll be the last speaker, as I was the first speaker a couple days ago, and talking about cottage succession and all the rest of this. And if so, in the interest of saving you some money on a ticket to the show, plus you can't get there maybe. Here's the point. Um, America's getting older, right? Things are getting more expensive, right? These are Cottages are getting more expensive. And nowadays, if you have a cottage in West Michigan, for example, are you are not in competition with other people in West Michigan to buy a cottage. You're in competition with the people from Chicago. Now you say, well, that's all right. 50 states, e pluribus unum, we're all in this together and all the rest. Yeah, I get that. But people in Chicago think nothing of spending $1 million for a two-bedroom apartment. Okay. I mean, look at some of the houses that those folks are living in and look at the prices on them. You can go to Zillow. Don't see this beauty part of it. You don't have to believe me on anything. Just go to Zillow and look up for a two-bedroom apartment in Cook County, Illinois. All right. Let alone all the taxes, corruption, violence, and everything else going on out there. Look at the prices. Unbelievable, right? And if you were in Chicago, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, people like to get away from Grand Rapids, okay? Like get out to the lake, get away from GR. Can you imagine getting away from Chicago? Can you imagine living in Gary and I'm gonna get away from the weekend? Well, you have a huge incentive to do that, don't you? Bigger incentive. So, my challenge to you is, if you've ever been to Chicago on a weekend, have you ever been to Chicago for a weekend, right? And you're coming back into Michigan, and as you're coming back into Michigan, the travel, it's kind of heavy traffic, but it's flowing right along, blah blah blah. Look over in the other lane, the traffic that's leaving Chicago, excuse me, that's leaving Michigan going to Chicago. All right, it's 4 lanes solid, bumper to bumper, moving slowly. Why? Because all those people, right? They're leaving beautiful West Michigan at the last moment to go back to the hellhole of Chicago. No offense, Chicago. Anyway, so they're waiting till the last minute. It's when I grew up on the Cape, it was the same way. Sunday afternoon, the traffic was backed up all the way down the Mid Cape Highway, and even after they put in 4 lanes, after it went from a 2 lane to a 4 lane, it was still backed up. Um, all the tourists leaving, all the people at the cottages taking off. Why? Because they didn't want to be in Boston or Dorchester or wherever. They wanted spend the time in the Cape. But that's what's happening. That's who you're in competition with. That's who your kids are in competition with. Okay. If you lose the family cottage, it ain't coming back. Nobody's gonna know. You got a cottage now in the family. We had some folks yesterday. Cottage in the family, 5 generations. 5 generations. Okay. You know what's changed over the 5 generations? The biggest change, I mean, is Things are more expensive. Of course they are, all the rest. The biggest change in the 5 generations, I would submit, this is my position, that the biggest change in the 5 generations is healthcare. It's more expensive and it lasts a hell of a lot longer, right? This is where the cottages are going to die. This is where the farms are going, okay? Centennial farms and what have you. Whereas before, people got old and they died. They get old and they don't die anymore. We just keep them at $550 a day nursing home. Well, do the math. Add another $50 a day for whatever. Now you're $600 a day. $600 a day. All right. What's 600 times 3? 1,800 times 10. 18,000. $18,000 a month. That's not everywhere. You can get the cheapo place for $12,000 a month. It's only $400 a day. Hey, go to the cheapo place. $12,000 a month. Oh, and by the way, you don't qualify for any help until you've sold a cottage. So let's get rid of that sucker to somebody in Chicago. This is what's happening. This is the reality of it. And that's why succession planning has to be first and foremost, has to be long-term care planning. This is what I keep saying. I mean, this is, I guess I'm kind of a one-trick pony on this. But if you don't plan for the long-term care, you aren't planning for the cottage. Give it up. Forget about it. You're not going to have it. No. Some stockbroker from, I don't know what the city is. I don't know what the street is in Chicago. I don't know. Someone in the green pits. They're getting your house. You know what I mean? It's somebody who's making a hell of a lot more money than your kids, who can easily outbid them. And it's the same way with, ask anybody. It's the same way with farmland. It's the same way with hunting property. Talking to a guy yesterday. Swampland is now going for $2,000 an acre. Why? Because guys are buying it who for them, it's nothing. It's nothing. They just assume pay $2,000. If it was $3,000, they'd buy it anyway. It doesn't matter to them. All right. You're in competition with people for whom the money's got a whole different meaning. And so the only way you're going to keep that cottage, that farmland, whatever, right, is to keep it. It's like a national park. All right. That's why Ulysses S. Grant, 150 years ago, established Yellowstone as the first national park. Because if we lose it, when you lose it, you don't get it back. There's no getting it back.